Longest Day, Longest Night by Rainbow Double Dash. Chapter 3. Parties, Muffins, and Kisses. I should let you know before we continue, I'm going to combine these two chapters. It'll just be something I'll do whenever a chapter runs too short. So, without further ado, let us begin. What was that? Trixie demanded as she got to her hose, wondering if it was possible to overdose a dose on adrenaline. She certainly felt like it after the shock she received. Lyra bit her lip. That was Pinkie Pie, she explained, scuffling a hoof on the cobblestone street beneath her. She moved here a little bit before I went to Carolot. She's probably run off to throw you a party. Trixie blinked as she took in Lyra's words versus the tone of her voice. Why are you saying that like it's synonymous with she's going to drag me into a basement and torture me? She gives off that vibe, doesn't she? Lyra asked, stepping forward and putting a hoof on Trixie's shoulder, as though bracing the unicorn for other bad news. It'll be a surprise party. Probably when you least expect it. If you do see it coming, though, don't run. She'll follow and drag you there. Trixie was beginning to grow seriously concerned. What? Just enjoy our party, Lyra said. They are enjoyable. And this is your first, so you'll get to have a lot of fun. Eat, drink, be happy. But for the love of Luna, do not mention any reason to throw you another party. Because she will. And then another, and another, and another, and another, and you see where this is going. The new representative of the Night Court raised an eyebrow. That's it. It's just more parties. An infinite loop of parties, Lyra said. Her spousal talent is making Pony smile. And she's good at it. I guess, but it's way too easy for her to go completely overboard. Trixie did not like the sound of that. Okay, so, go to the party, enjoy myself, but don't look like I'm enjoying myself too much. She thought about that and smiled a little. So, basically like the Grand Galloping Gala. Easy. Lyra's eyes widened a little at the casual mention of the most prestigious social event in all of Equestrian society. You've been to the gala? 5 times. Trixie responded with a nod, and then grinned and pointed a hoof at her chest. Luna's protege, remember? Of course I've been. Lyra smirked. Lucky. Trixie shrugged. Anyway, Trixie said, stepping away from Lyra and consulting her mental list of destinations and ponies to see. Last stop is music. Some pony named Fluttershy volunteered to... Lyra's eyes lit surprised once more. Fluttershy? She interrupted. She volunteered? You sure you're remembering right? Trixie's eyes narrowed slightly. Completely. I have a photographic memory. Really? Well, no. But there's a spell that lets you remember something for 24 hours. I used it on my list of ponies I needed to see. Useful, Lyra said, tapping one hoof to her mouth as she thought. Fluttershy is, well, shy. Incredibly shy. I don't know her very well. It means that if you and me show up at her cottage, she'll probably just hide under her bed and wait for us to go away. Trixie's eyebrow arched at that. Then, why did she volunteer to do music? I don't know. It's not very in character for her, Lyra said as she continued to consider. She barely even comes into town. Usually just mails all her stuff straight to her home. Ha! Got it! Lyra looked around a moment and getting her bearings, before pointing one hoof down Ponyville Street. Okay, this way. We'll probably have to recruit some help on this one. Trixie blinked. Help? Help! A panicked voice from inside the Ponyville's post office came. The unicorns spared each other a glance before dashing inside, horns glowing and ready to face out about any problem that might confront them. Except this one. This one being an impossibly large pile of envelopes, boxes, loose paper, stamps, mail bags, mail cards, at least one over to ourselves, and for some bizarre reason, a half-eaten tray of muffins. Just barely poking out from the pile was a single hoof, waving frantically. The two unicorns once again paused, this time in utter confusion as to how a gigantic mess could have been caused. They quickly went to work, however, magically hefting and lifting the piles of assorted mail and mail-related things off the pony who was trapped beneath it all. After several moments of working together, they finally pushed aside enough for the trapped pony, a gray Pegasus with a yellow mane and tail, wearing the navy uniform and cap of a mail bear, to break free from her papery prison and get her hooves on solid wooden floor again. Ugh! The pony groaned, rubbing her head a few moments. She opened her eyes and looked to Trixie and Lyra. I just don't know what went wrong. Trixie realized she was staring, tried to stop, failed miserably. The Pegasus pony had yellow eyes, quite vibrant ones at that, but the two of them refused to focus, with her left eye focused mostly on Trixie, while the right one was pointed out and upwards towards the ceiling. Trixie said, extending a hoof mechanically. Hi. The Pegasus took it with both hooves, fumbling slightly as he did, and shook it. Thank you, she said. I don't know how I would have gotten out of there without you two. As she said this, she released Trixie's captured hoof and returned to Lyra, shaking hers as well. I was climbing on the shelf to get my muffins, but then everything just started falling. Trixie blinked a few times. Climbing, she said, looking to the Pegasus' wings. Oh, why didn't you just fly? Oh, the Pegasus said, grinning as he scratched the back of her head with one hoof. I forgot, yeah. You forgot you could fly? Myra asked incredulously, though obviously believing the Pegasus despite the question. Trixie, on the other hand, was fairly adept at recognizing lies when she heard one. Yeah, the Pegasus said sheepishly. I forgot I could fly. She turned to look at the mess you made. I think the post office is going to close for today, so if you are hoping to get something mailed, you'll have to wait. She turned to look to the two mares. Lyra Heartstrings, the mint green unicorn introduced herself, and this is Trixie. No, we weren't here to have anything mailed. We were actually hoping to speak with the mail pony who makes deliveries to a cottage on the edge of Everfree Forest. Fluttershy's? The Pegasus asked. At a confirming nod, she tapped herself. That would be me. I'm Dizzy Doo. Great! Lyra exclaimed, turning to Trixie. Like I said, Fluttershy would probably hide under a bed if too many ponies showed up at our doorstep. So it should just be you and Dizzy here who go and see her. Trixie raised an eyebrow at that. Are you dissing me? She asked. Lyra opened her mouth to object, thought better of it, and instead nodded. Yes, she confirmed. I have some things I need to do. I'll meet you at your place later. Lyra didn't wait for confirmation before leaving the post office, a noticeable spring to her step and swing to her haunches as she did. Trixie wasn't certain how she felt about the mint-green unicorn leaving, but her contemplations on the matter were interrupted as she noticed a pair of yellow eyes focused on her. She turned, surprised to see that Dizzy Doo, apparently, could lock both eyes on a subject if she wanted. Dizzy Doo thought, I don't think I've seen you around before. And I thought I knew every pony. You didn't know Lyra, Trixie pointed out. I didn't know her face, the Pegasus corrected, turning around, one eye lingering on Trixie for slightly longer than the other one as they became walled once more. It began to dig through the piles of letters he had previously been trapped underneath, searching unerringly despite the utter chaos. After a few moments, she held up an envelope, stamped with magic Academy sigil. Lyra Heartstrings, 12 Hazy Lead. Moved away 3 years ago to attend Luna School of Magic on a music scholarship, just before I started my job here. I've been delivering her mail to her parents' house because he never got to that new mailing address. Dizzy's eyes narrowed at that. I hate it when ponies do that. Trixie blinked a few times. You know all that? She asked. How? I read her mail. Trixie stared. Kidding! Dizzy said with a laugh as she used her head as a plow to begin shoving all the fallen letters away from the post office's door. I talk to her parents when I'm on my route sometimes. Oh, the blue unicorn said, chuckling in slight relief. Well, yes, I'm new. I've been appointed as the new representative of Luna's Night Court and official overseer. Dizzy interrupted, pausing a moment with her tongue clenched between her teeth in concentration as her eyes wandered, independently, over the pile of mail before her, before diving once more into it and coming out with a trio of envelopes in her mouth. One midnight one white, and one brown. She trotted over to the surprised-looking Trixie. Said the mayor as best as he could with a mouthful of mail. Trixie paused a moment, before grasping the envelopes with her magic and looking them over. The midnight blue envelope was from Luna, bore the seal wrapped proudly on its back. The brown envelope also bore the royal seal. It claimed to be from Luna, but given the color of the envelope, it was more likely that it was from some pony who had been delegated the task of sending it in Luna's name. The final envelope bore no seal at all, instead simply being addressed to her in an elegant flowing script, most likely a unicorn's right, as Earth ponies and Pegasi, liking telekinetic magic, rarely had the mouth and tongue dexterity to write Equestrian with such elegance. How did you... Trixie began, looking back to Ditsy. The Pegasus shrugged, pointing at the two from Carolot. These two arrived just a few hours ago. Her hoof moved to the white envelope. And that one's been sitting here for weeks waiting for you. It's from the last representative. Trixie had actually meant, how did you find all these and all of that? And by the way, how did you know unless you really do read Pony's mail? But decided to let that slide. Instead, she turned her attention back to an earlier point of interest, while tucking the envelopes away into her cape for now. You can remember all that, she accused. But you forgot how to fly? Yes, Dizzy responded evenly. Her tones changed just slightly. However, to be noticeably defensive, as her eyes managed to come into focus on Trixie once more. Trixie stared, gaze switching from one of Dizzy's no longer wandering eyes to the other. She put two to two together pretty quickly. Wandering eyes would make even when walking around a chore. Never mind attempting to move in 3 dimensions, even to just get muffins on the top shelf. After a few moments, Trixie nodded. Okay. Dizzy's smile returned at that, this time looking grateful. Okay, she echoed. Just give me a few minutes to clean this place up and work on the fire size. I think it's going to take a few more than a few minutes, Trixie observed. Although, even as she did, she found herself stepping forward a few paces. Horn glowing and lifting up a large pile of letters and separating them out for Dizzy to look over. Maybe a little, the gray-coated Pegasus conceded, as she used her hoof to slide away a tray of muffins along the floor and out into Trixie. Muffin? Not unless you've got one with peanut butter, hay, and pumpernickel seeds. Dizzy Doo asked, pointing to one with a hoof absent-mindedly as he collected the levitated letters and began sorting them. Trixie nearly dropped them all on the Pegasus as he stared at a muffin that she had thought no any other pony could consider absolutely unedible. She had to practically threaten the Chef's family back in Carolot to get him to make them for her, and yet, here one was, sitting next to an otherwise normal blueberry muffin. Trixie decided that she and Ditsy were going to be best friends. At least until she found out where Ditsy got her muffins from. If I could take a break here. I just want to say, Rainbow Double Dash, I would so totally eat that. I'm with Trixie on this. I would so totally eat that muffin and make it mine. I know. I have a very weird palate. You should seek meet my brother. Lyra could not, for the life of her, understand why she was so nervous as he sat outside the candy store, staring at its door as though it was holding her family hostage. This is stupid, the unicorn thought. I should go in there, right now. Get in gear, pony up, move, you silly filly. Lyra stood still. It's not like I haven't seen her. I saw her plenty over the last 3 years. Yeah, it was just for a few hours whenever she came to visit Caroline, or when I went to visit her on the weekends, but... Come on, I saw her last... No, wait, that was finals week. But I saw her... No, I had an audition. Didn't get it. Then there was... No. But, no, nothing either. Holy hey. How long has it been since I've seen her? Lyra's eyes widened as he realized. Oh, it's been like a semester. A semester and a half. It was easy. I guess I got so busy that Oh, she probably hates me. The mint-green unicorn turned and walked away, dejected. The mint-green unicorn turned and walked back, determined. Bonbon could never hate me. She is the one who said I should take advantage of that scholarship. I wasn't going to, but she convinced me. And then I haven't seen her for 8 months. But there's still letters. We wrote to each other all the time. So there. We need to write about... Oh, Luna. I don't know. I can't remember what was on Bonbon's last letter to me. What was on mine to her? Stars above. One of it was something about Major. Lyra hit herself in the head. Few times. Think, Lyra, think! Oh, this is important! This is... Lyra felt hose on her back, shoving her forward. She stumbled up and ended up with her face planted firmly against the candy shop door. Ow! Ow! Oops! A magenta voice said. Lyra wasn't sure how voices could be magenta, but this one was. I thought it open-end words. The unicorn felt herself being picked up and brushed off, and realized she was staring entirely. What? Lyra asked wearily as she struggled to clear her head. When did you... Ah! The exclamation came as Shirley opened the door and shoved Lyra inside of Bonbon's confessionarium. By the time she got her hose under her, she was aware of a half-dozen sets of eyes on her. 2 pairs belonged to a pair of fillies, an orange Pegasus and a white unicorn, who were standing by the rock candies. One of a brown-colored stallion with an hourglass cutie mark, who had been on his way out with a bag of jelly babies. Please give me a chance to do a Doctor Who's voice. Please, 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 please. A blue unicorn stallion with a long horn and a safety pin cutie mark. A fifth stead were claimed by an earth pony with a dark blue coat, blue eyes, and a star cutie mark. And the final dark teal set belonged to Bonbon, a cream-colored earth pony with a mane and tail striped in a navy bright pink, who was the most beautiful creature that Lyra had ever laid eyes upon. She was standing behind the counter, mouth hanging open. Lyra began, before being thrown a third time. In this instance, it was a cream, navy, and pink blur, moved with a speed that would have impressed the Wonderbolts from behind the counter, past the customers, and straight into Lyra, throwing her onto the ground and knocking her Gatsby off, with the blur landing on top of her and revealing itself to be, unsurprisingly, Bonbon. Lyra was frozen for a moment, before her body moved of its own accord, wrapping Bonbon in as tight an embrace as the earth pony was currently giving her, burying her muzzle in Bonbon's mane and breathing in deeply. She smelled of sugar. Always smelled of sugar. She was a candy maker, after all. The smell was subtle, not overpowering. a faint background set that brought with it thousands of memories of the two growing up together in Ponyville. Best friends as fillies, and something so much more than that they grew older. It was the sweetest smell in all of Equestria. Hi, Lyra finally managed to say as she opened her eyes and found herself staring back at Bonbons. I'm back. I noticed, Bonbon responded, before leaning up and pressing her lips firmly to Lyra's own. The unicorn's heart stopped beating for a few moments before plunging into overdrive as he sank into Bonbon's kiss. She was vaguely aware of the dark blue mare and brown stallion ushering the fillies and other customers out of the shop, knowing smiles on their faces and soliciting the sight under the store's front window from open to closed. Like all things, the kiss had to end eventually. They had to breathe, of course. In Lyra's case, it ended with Bonbon pulling away, offering a smile, and then hitting the unicorn firmly on top of the head. Ow! What was that for? Lyra demanded, rubbing the spot where Bonbon had hit her. Because, Bonbon explained as she put her hose on Lyra's barrel and forced her firmly to the floor, leaning down at Tuzzie's muzzles. You haven't written me in more than 6 weeks! Oh, Lyra said, blinking away. I'm sorry, I lost track of time. These last few weeks have been... You're not sorry, Bonbon accused, before a grin split off her features, as he gave Lyra a pick on the nose. Not yet, anyway. With that, she got off the unicorn and began trotting toward the stairs that would take her to the apartment on the second story of the candy store. She paused only to glance at Lyra, eyes half-lidded, and nodded her head upstairs. Lyra blinked a few times before offering a full-toothed smile of her own, getting up quickly and prancing after the love of her life. And before this fic gets turned into an let's check out Flirtsize doing selling audience! Flirtsize Cottage was about as far away from Ponyville as Sweet Apple Acres, but in a different direction. A route across the unclaimed, snow-covered fields that almost seemed to serve as a kind of buffer between Ponyville and the dangerous evergreen forest. As Trixie followed Ditsy, the blue unicorn noted that the skies over the forest were noticeably darker than over the rest of Ponyville. In the far distance, she could even see large thunderhead clouds forming. Yikes! Ditsy said, as she noticed the storm of clouds herself, even though she had to bend her head at a cold angle to get her eyes to focus on one of them. The weather ponies are going to have the hose full! So I hear, Trixie intoned. She realized after a moment that she was staring, once more, at Ditsy Doo's eyes, and that the Pegasus was staring back. Caught in the act, Trixie felt her face heat up in embarrassment as she quickly looked away. I'm sorry, she began. Just go on and say it, the mayor interrupted, her tone insistent and surprisingly patient, rather than bitter. Your eyes are crooked, and I don't know which one to be looking at when I'm talking with you, which is really awkward because you seem nice and there's nothing wrong with you, but it's awkward for me, but it has to be worse for you because I don't mean anything by that. I'm sure you're a perfectly normal member of Equestria Society. I mean, you do have a government job, but you're giving me that moment, and... Trixie trailed off there, catching her breath and looking more away, focusing very intently on the dirt path beneath her hooves. Ditsy Doo blinked a few times at the rapid pace of Trixie's exclamation. Feel better? She asked. Trixie didn't want to answer. She used her magic to turn up the collar on her cape, hiding her face from Ditsy Doo's. Frankly, she was surprised at her own actions. Back at Carolot, she would have no problem keeping her thoughts on Ditsy Doo's wandering eyes in check. She tossed it up to the day not going well. The conflict at the apples, the oncoming storm from the Everfree, being assaulted by Rarity, being scared witless by Pinkie Pie, and threatened to be put in a perpetual party loop. And with a very distinct feeling that somewhere in Canterlot right now, a certain midnight blue alicorn princess, with a knowing grin on her face, as she watched Trixie suffer using a crystal ball, or mirror, or pool of water, or telescope, or something. For her part, Dizzy Do let Trixie stew, which was exactly what the unicorn wanted to do. She only broke her out of it about a half hour later, tapping Trixie on the shoulder to indicate that they had arrived at a thatched-roofed, picturesque cottage near the evergreen forest, surrounded by small, loose-crafted animal homes, and even a chicken coop. "Fluttershy's!" Dizzy Do said, as the two trotted up to the front door. "We'll have to go easy on her," the Pegasus explained in a soft voice. "Let me do the talking. And if she hides under something, just let her stay there until she wants to come out on her own." Trixie blinked. "And if she hides under something?" Dizzy Do nodded as they reached the door. Taking in a deep breath, the Pegasus knocked it softly 3 times. From inside, Trixie heard a high-pitched and panicked and then the sound of several things being knocked over and hose pounding on wood, retreating from the door. To her surprise, she also heard another voice. This one almost scratchy. "Oh no, the Fluttershy is probably just... the voice said with surprising intensity, at least compared to the volume that Trixie had been expecting. The sound of angry hoof stomps began approaching the door. "Oh," Dizzy Do said, "I guess Fluttershy has..." The door flew open, and Trixie found herself staring at the cyan-colored Pegasus, with the most vibrant mane she had ever seen on a pony. It was literally all the colors of the rainbow. The hot ones on top of her head, and the cooler ones running down her neck. Her tail was similarly polychromatic, and on either flank was a cutie mark of white fluffy cloud with a rainbow-hued lightning bolt arcing away from it. "Okay, what gives?" the Pegasus pony demanded. Dizzy Do pointed at Trixie. "Rainbow Dash, this is Trixie." She turned to Trixie. "Trixie, this is Rainbow Dash." And because this is only 3,000 words, next chapter. Longest Day, Longest Night. Chapter 4. Potent Potables. "Rainbow Dash?" Trixie asked, looking the Pegasus mirror over. Rainbow Dash's own eyes copied the movements as he took in Trixie's appearance. Yeah, the Pegasus answered. "Who are you supposed to be?" She looked between Trixie and Ditsy. "Oh, and which one of you scared Fluttershy?" Ditsy Do waved her hat off a little. "Didn't mean to." The gray-colored Pegasus apologized. "Is she okay?" Rainbow Dash stepped to one side, pointing to Fluttershy's home. It was decorated beautifully, adorned with all sorts of odds and ends that gave it a very homely and cozy appearance. However, a table and everything that had been on it were knocked over, along with a vase of flowers sitting near the stairs to the cottage's second floor. "Does she look okay?" Rainbow Dash demanded. "Way to go, Derpy!" Dizzy Do grimaced slightly at Rainbow Dash's accusation and name-calling. Trixie felt a surprising amount of fear rising in her chest over that. "Hey!" she exclaimed, stepping forward and placing her face right up to the Pegasus's own. "Leave Dizzy Do alone!" The cyan Pegasus' eyes widened a little at Trixie's words, as though they had jogged a memory for her. After several moments of staring, she took her head, clearing it. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Trixie," the unicorn introduced herself. "Representative Trixie of the Night Court of Luna. I am also here as the Longest Night Festival Overseer, so I need to speak with Fluttershy about the music she volunteered to handle." Rainbow Dash bristled a little at that, in a mixture of defensiveness and embarrassment. "She's doing just fine," the pony proclaimed. "Alright, but I need to talk to her." No, Dash firmly repeated. Not now. Come back later. The Pegasus made to close the door, but Trixie blinked. Each of its hinges were wrapped in a magical blue aura, holding the door firmly open. Why? Rainbow Dash stared. What? Why should I come back later? Trixie clarified. I'm here now. Fluttershy is here now, provided she hasn't run out a back door or something. Hey, lay off Fluttershy! You don't even know her! True enough, Trixie admitted as she grinned. But I do know that of the 4 ponies at this house, you're the only one who isn't supposed to be here. She dabbed a hoof back at Ponyville. You're the weather patrol manager, right? Your team is wondering where you've gone. They're practically starting to quit. Rainbow Dash grunted and pointed up to the sky. If those lazy bums can't even handle a few serious clouds, then they should be calling themselves Pegasi. Not those, Trixie continued, pointing past Fluttershy's house and into the darkening skies over the Everfree. That! There's a huge storm brewing over the Everfree, and the Raindrops said... Raindrops? Dash asked, and then threw her back and laughed. Raindrops worries about every stray cumulus because of how slow a fire she is. And no pony should be worrying about that Everfree storm. It's nothing I can't handle. Trixie blinked. By yourself? Yeah? Rainbow Dash proclaimed, as though the answer should have been obvious. I'd love to see you try and back that up. The Pegasus opened her mouth and thought to claim it that she would. And right now at that, but stopped halfway and grimaced. Look, I'm the weather manager, and I know what I'm doing. If that storm becomes a problem, I'll deal with it. But right now, I can't leave Fluttershy hanging. So if you'll just go away and take Derpy here with you... Trixie's eyes narrowed, and her horn glowed dangerously. Don't say that again! Trixie threatened. Rainbow Dash grinned at how Trixie seemed to be taking the name worse than the pony it was directed at. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Dizzy Doo interposed herself between the weather manager and the night court representative, taking turns to glare at each one of them. Eyes focused and wings spread side. Stop! She said, her voice firm, like a mother scolding children who are misbehaving themselves. Now! Trixie glared past Dizzy Doo at Rainbow Dash, who matched her stare unflinchingly. Neither of them, however, made any move to continue their argument. After a few moments, the Great Pegasus turned to Rainbow Dash. I've known Fluttershy since she moved here, she said, not nearly as long as you. So, I'm going to see my friend. Rainbow Dash shook her head, appearing to have genuine concern for the pony, who was now even now cowering upstairs somewhere. No, not right now. She's really nervous and... Rainbow Dash, get out of my way. The other Pegasus didn't move for several moments, but the unblinking stare of Dizzy Doo eventually wore her down. She backed away from the door, making enough room for the Pegasus to step into the cottage. Once inside, she folded her wings back against her side and turned to look at Trixie. What did you want to ask Fluttershy? She asked. Just how the music preparations were coming along, Trixie answered, making a point of not looking at Rainbow Dash, even peripherally. Although now, I'm kind of curious as how she could be friends with a stuck-up... No. Dizzy Doo offered with surprising firmness, tapping a hoof at Trixie, suddenly enough to make the unicorn stumble backwards a few steps. After a few moments, she turned around and trotted away, heading upstairs, although she spared a final glance at the 2 other ponies. She didn't speak, but the glare's meaning was obvious. Play nice, or I will ground you for a month. Trixie wasn't certain why a look had an effect on her, but it did. Silence lingered between the Pegasus and the unicorn that Dizzy left behind for some time. Eventually, however, Rainbow Dash glanced at Trixie, looking over her again. Nice hat, she intoned, smirking. Nice day job. Trixie countered without hesitation. The Pegasus grinned and whined as he ran a hoof through her mane. It's not dye. I'm all natural. Trixie seethed, but didn't rise to the bait, as she chose to focus on the ground under her hooves and not the grin of triumph that she knew was on Rainbow Dash's face. Instead, she ran through her mental list of things she hated about today. Previously, the alicorn had been topping that list, but Rainbow Dash had managed to shoot past all competition and settle into first place. Yay! After an eternity of silence, the sound of hostess from the floor above them signaled Ditsy's return. The Great Pegasus trotted down to the cottage the stairs, and up to Trixie, a sad look on her face having eyes once again wandering apart. Fluttershy isn't going to be able to do the music this year, she said sadly. Rainbow Dash talked her into volunteering, but now she's too frightened to be in front of so many ponies. Rainbow has been trying to convince her not to be worried, but Fluttershy's mind seems to be made up. Rainbow Dash grumbled under her breath as she sat back on her haunches, crossing her front hooves in front of her. I bet I would have been able to if you hadn't frightened her. She seemed pretty determined, Ditsy said, then considered her words. Relatively, anyway. Trixie was wide-eyed, mouth hanging open slightly, blinking only slowly as she took in what Ditsy had said. What? She asked. No, it's only 2 days to the festival. She said she handled the music, volunteered, filled out the paperwork. Actually, that was mostly me. Rainbow Dash admitted sheepishly. Trixie's eyes somehow managed to open even wider as she turned her gaze slowly onto the cyan Pegasus, whose expression had changed to one of embarrassment. I mean, you should hear her sing. She's really good with animals, and I've seen her raise a bird chorus, and I suggested that she should volunteer and get her birds to help, and she said she'd love to, and I thought maybe it'd get her a chance to open up. But then she got cold hooves a few days ago. Trixie's mouth opened and shut of its own accord a few times before words managed to come out. I'm going upstairs, she said, taking a step forward. Instantly, her path was blocked by a pair of Pegasi. Wings spread defensively. No, I don't think so, Rainbow Dash added. Trixie looked between the two. But, it's the longest night! Trixie exclaimed. The halfway point of winter. And if we don't have music arranged for when the princess rises the moon, the catering is going to be awful. And then there's that storm coming. Rainbow Dash looked incredulously. Are you still on about that? And I'm going to get blamed for this! Trixie exclaimed, stepping forward once again, but only to get close to the 2 Pegasi as he looked between the two. This was my big chance to show Luna that I can handle responsibility, and everything is heading straight into the sun! Well, deal! Rainbow Dash said. Dissy rolled her eyes at Rainbow's advice, before turning back to Trixie. I'm sorry, she said. I really am, but Fluttershy is just too delicate. Even if you convinced her somehow, she'd probably freeze on the stage on the longest night anyway. Rainbow Dash shot Dissy a glare but the Pegasus could only shrug. And after a moment, Rainbow Dash sighed and nodded confirmation. Trixie's head snapped between the two a few more times, before she let out a groan of frustration. Fine! She spat, before turning around and stomping out the door, making a point of letting the anger she felt rise visibly to the surface, protecting the perfect image of a pony that no pony would want to be within 100 feet of if they could help it. As expected, Dissy didn't follow her. Indeed, the 2 Pegasi closed the door to Fluttershy's cottage. Once it was shut, Trixie stopped her angry pace, eyes narrow as her horn began to glow beneath her hat, casting a spell that was almost familiar to her as basic unicorn telekinesis. Her color and form seemed to simply bleed out of reality, becoming nothing more than an odd smudge on air, and soon afterwards, Not even that, as her invisibility spell wrapped itself firmly around her body, hat, and cape. A second, similarly familiar spell encircled each of her hooves, as she pranced in place on the dirt path a few times to confirm that her silencing spell had taken effect, before making a beeline straight for Fluttershy's cottage. The closed door presented little deterrent, as it hadn't been locked by the other Pegasi, and Trixie opened and passed through, closed it before any pony inside the house could notice. She saw Rainbow Dash in Fluttershy's kitchen, brewing up tea, and helping herself to a rather ample cookie supply, while Ditsy 2 wasn't in sight, probably have gone up to the second floor. Trixie grimaced as he began to climb the stairs, slowly and carefully, despite the sound-dampening spell that extended in 6-inch radius around each hoof. And in just a few moments, she was upstairs, making her way down a hall and into a room with its door wide open, where soft voices could be heard conversing. "Okay, Fluttershy," Ditsy 2 said as Trixie entered the room. Fluttershy's bedroom was decorated much like the rest of her house, dominated by a bed of green, thick comforter. Laying on top of the bed was a yellow Pegasus with a pink, thick, long mane, staring intently at her own front hooves, seemingly like she was trying to hide her face in it. Her cutie mark was a trio of pink butterflies. Sitting opposite of her on the bed was Ditsy 2, both eyes focused forward. Okay," Fluttershy stuttered. Her voice was amazingly soft. Trixie had to lean in to hear it. "Yeah," Ditsy said, leaning forward cautiously, intently nuzzling the yellow Pegasus. She flinched initially, but after a moment leaned into the friendly sign of affection. "It was really brave of you to even volunteer." "Oh, I don't know," Fluttershy intoned. "It was Rainbow Dash's idea. I would never have been brave enough to even try without her, and I only did it because I never thought I'd actually get the position." "Well, you did," Ditsy 2 said as he pulled away. "It was a big step forward." Fluttershy looked up at Ditsy 2. Trixie took a step back. Her eyes, Fluttershy's large teal eyes, were stained red from tears. "It doesn't feel like one," she said. "Oh, and that Trixie sounded so mad. I made such a mess of things. I never should have let Rainbow Dash suck me into even trying. But she seemed so sure that I could do it that I didn't want to let her down, but now I have." Trixie did not, by any stretch of imagination, consider herself an affectionate pony. It nevertheless took every ounce of willpower she had to not leap atop of that bed and give Fluttershy a warm, tight hug. She looked like she needed one. Then again, as she flinched from even a gentle nuzzle, she wasn't certain Fluttershy would be able to survive such an outright show of affection. The unicorn pony, who also wanted to let out an annoyed sigh, but practiced sneaking around, held that in check as well. She had come up here with the intention of decloaking herself where there was nothing Ditsy or Rainbow Dash could do to stop her from seeing Fluttershy, and demanding the pony perform in the longest night festival. But what she had seen in just a few seconds of observing Fluttershy made it painfully obvious that she was never going to perform on stage, no matter what Trixie had threatened to do to her or offered to bribe her with. The blue unicorn instead turned around and made her way from Fluttershy's cottage, back into the waiting day. "Trixie! I am sick of apples!" "Me too, Princess. Yes, but you see, Trixie, it was your job to make sure that the catering went smoothly. Now, because of you, I'm going to destroy the apple trust and outlaw apples across Equestria! Any pony caught eating one will be hanged, drawn, and quartered!" "I'm cool with that," Trixie said, beginning to seek an apple. "But did you really want to go outside in this?" Luna looked outside at the mass of snow, rain, wind, thunder, lightning, ice, and acid storm. And acid? That was even now destroying Ponyville. "I am an alicorn. I can deal," Luna remarked, opening the door to the town hall and trotting outside. Immediately, she began melting, freezing, and being flayed. Dramatic music probably should have been playing, but it was completely, notably absent. Great! Luna ejected as her body was destroyed. This is the last time I invest any responsibility in you, Trixie! I know. There was a pause. As Luna was reduced to nothing more than a head, she raised one eyebrow and appraised the interior of the town hall, with her one remaining eye before it was destroyed. The decorations are quite not lovely, though. Good job! Trixie snickered at her own morbid fantasy as she made her way through Ponyville streets, looking for the building that would be serving as her home while she was living in the town. It wasn't particularly hard to find, being located near the center and bordering the cobblestone plaza that surrounded Town Hall. It was a two-story thatched roofed house, distinguishable from the other residences in Ponyville, only because it was surrounded by a short iron fence, only about chest high, and a small garden currently buried under the snow, as well as a hanging sign outside its front gate that read, Residency of the Representative of the Night Court of Luna. The words printed over the equestrian coat of arms. After the hectic day of disappointment, shocks, and nearly being trapped outside at noon, she was severely hoping that the pantry of her new home was fully stocked, or at least contained a decent supply of potent potables. She trotted outside with her eyes half-lidded, finding the door unlocked and the house inside dark. She hung her hat on the stand just inside the door, but kept her cape on. She trotted inside with eyes half-lidded, finding the door unlocked and the house inside dark. She hung her hat on a stand inside the door, but kept her cape on. The house was probably cold, and she wanted to continue benefiting from the warming enchantment woven into her cape until she could get a fire going. Ugh! The unicorn groaned as she made her way towards the door that, if she were designing this house, would contain the living room. Where's the light? Ah! Quite suddenly, someone had turned on the gas lights in the room she had wandered into, and Trixie found herself surrounded by ponies of every shape, hue, tribe, all of whom took the opportunity to yell, Surprise! At the top of her lungs. Trixie all but leapt from her coat at the sight, and nearly stumbled to the floor as a certain vibrantly pink pony was suddenly standing right in front of her. Surprise! The pony exclaimed, I beg your pardon, I threw this party just for you! Were you surprised? Were you? Trixie stared at the wide grin, manic look. It was, for some reason, far too easy to imagine this pony doing horrible things to her. You see, I saw you outside Rarity's, remember? You're all stars above. And I was like, ah! Remember? You see, I never saw you before, and if I never saw you before, that means you're new. Because I know every pony, and I meet every pony in Ponyville. I know if you're new, that means you haven't met any pony yet. I've met a few ponies, actually. Trixie interrupted as she picked herself up and started looking for something that would destroy her liver in a short order. Piggy didn't slow down or acknowledge the interruption, and followed Trixie as she walked. And if you haven't met any pony yet, you must not have any friends. And if you don't have any friends, then you must be lonely. And that made me so sad. And then I had an idea. That's why I went, ah! I'll just go throw you a great big orange super duper spectacular welcome party and invite every pony in Ponyville. See? And now you have lots of friends. Piggy found a table littered with glasses and bottles that contained vibrant warnings about their contents. Checking a few labels, she chose one with the largest number on it and began pouring it into a glass, while turning to regard Pinky and the party. Every pony in Ponyville? Pinkie Pie's head bobbed up and down rapidly as Trixie finished pouring and took a swig of what she had poured for herself. It burned pleasantly on the way down her throat. There's maybe 24 ponies here. Pinkie Pie didn't deflate at all from that remark. A party is still a party, even if nobody doesn't show up. Pinkie exclaimed, bouncing happily in circles around Trixie. Besides, I don't think your house could fit every pony, not that I wouldn't mind trying, and there's still plenty of ponies here! She smiled as he dragged several into a group hug, which they went along with surprisingly easy. The marks of something foaming held in their hooves, as they may have had something to do with it. Trixie blinked a few times, remembering Lyra's advice about Pinkie Pie's parties. The pink pony was strenuously enthused and seemed intent on making this Trixie's best night ever. As she had just an awful day and could use any excuse to forget it. Tomorrow might be worse, after all, what with having to find a new music venue on short notice, not to mention that meeting with Rarity. Ugh. The blue unicorn drained what remained of her drink in one fell swoop, and then began pouring herself a new glass. As he did, an old Earth Pony salute came to mind. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die! Lyra and Bonbon passed through the front gate of the residency of the Night Court representative with trepidation, especially given the volume of music that was coming out of it, and above that, on occasion, the voice of Pinkie Pie. Do we have to? Lyra asked, as they stood outside the door. Lyra was once more in her wool coat and Gatsby, while Bonbon was bedecked in a cloak and wide-brimmed hat of her own. With the sun having settled beyond the horizon, the night's temperature was plunging rapidly. A chill wind answered her question as it cut through their garments, driving both of the ponies inside quickly to get out of the cold. So, what's Trixie like? Bonbon asked. Kind of a jerk, Lyra admitted, but I think she's under a lot of stress. Well, then maybe this party will do her a lot of good then. Bonbon observed as the two shook their hats and cloaks, leaving them in a pile that had been formed near the front door. Several ponies had escaped from where the main party had seemed to be going on, standing in the hallway. They politely greeted Bonbon and welcomed Lyra back from Carolot. But we have to be in the same house as Pinkie Pie! Lyra attempted. Hush! She's easily my best customer. Bonbon responded, gently knocking her flank against Lyra's own. The unicorn put on a suitably mollified-looking face as the two ponies approached the main room. Before they could enter, however, a certain blue unicorn in a purple cape came stumbling out, no fewer than 3 glasses, each containing liquids of a different color, seemed grasped in her telekinetic aurora. Lyra and Bonbon froze as Trixie's violet eyes looked in the direction. They were glazed over at first, but her voice came to focus as she saw Lyra. Hot strings! She exclaimed. Something seemed off about her, and not simply the slurs it had picked up for the concoctions held in each vessel. Y'all made it. Y'all! Lyra echoed, as Trixie stumbled forward, gave Lyra a tight hug, which the mint-green unicorn returned, only if to increase her chances of ending it quickly. As it did, Bonbon was regarded by Trixie. You! She exclaimed, then paused, her eyes squinting a little as she stared at Bonbon. I'm afraid I have not yet the pleasure. Lyra blinked a few times, realizing the problem with Trixie's voice. Her voice had changed, not quite to the country drawl that was common to the rural parts of Equestria, but similar. The Canterlot lip to her accent had disappeared. However, Trixie? Trixie? The unicorn replied incredulously, looking insulted. She put a hoof to her chest. I'm wounded. I thought we were on better terms, Mamma May. Hot strings. To the Lunaverse! Lyra's eyes grew larger than any plate found outside the Griffin Kingdoms at that demand. Lulamoon? Oui! Trixie drew Lyra into a deep hug, as Bonbon stared with a mixture of confusion and mirth. I'm so glad you're here, hot strings! Come on, come on, come on, come on! You all have to see this! She stumbled away and back into the main party room. Bonbon blinked a few times, Then back to Lyra. She seems very friendly, she remarked. I don't know what you were worried about. Lyra was actually growing a bit beyond worry as she and Bonbon made their way into the living room, where the music was loud and the ponies were dancing or recovering from long dancing sessions, or just talking to each other. A pink blur moved between them all, making sure that neither glass nor mug remained empty for very long. Once inside, Trixie took them both by the hoof and dragged them to a wall, on which a beautiful stylized mural had been painted. Look! Trixie said, jabbing a hoof at the painting. It's the story of a Hova. Well, I don't want to say her name in polite company, heartstrings, but you know. Lyra blinked, inspecting the mural. All done in gentle storybook quality, and ending with Luna standing triumphant, sun and moon balanced on either wing. The mural clearly depicted the fall of Celestia, the former alicorn princess, and Luna's elder sister, and her transformation into the fiery, wrathful, and greedy mare known as Corona, followed by the epic battle between Luna and Corona for the fate of Equestria. It featured Luna's victory prominently, but Lyra nevertheless felt a shiver go down her spine at the sight, even in storybook fashion, of the alicorn that to this day was trapped in the sun. Trixie nodded as Lyra looked over the mural, a wide grin on her features. The story of Corona, she said, apparently forgetting her earlier concern. Oui! Something like this in every royal appointment in Equestria, mon ami! It reminds us to do our jobs and such. Trixie drained one of the glasses he held. It turned to Lyra. Do you know what Corona said just before Princess Luna turned her in the sun? She put a hoof to her chest as though stabbed. Ah! The unicorn laughed at her joke, drained her second glass, but quickly noticed the mortified looks on the faces of Lyra and Bonbon. "Nene regardez pas comme ça?" she exclaimed, stomping a hoof forward and jamming a hoof slightly to Lyra's left. "C'est un boom! You're all supposed to enjoy yourselves!" Lyra stared, having a very difficult time reconciling the pony in front of her, who was draining her final glass, with the pony she had left earlier in the day. "Are you alright?" she asked. Trixie glared at Lyra, before her gaze softened noticeably as he stumbled forward, tapping Lyra on the nose. "You know," she said, "you are very cute for a musician, or perhaps because you all are a musician, whatever." She's taken, Bonbon said quickly, stepping forward defensively between Trixie and Lyra. Trixie regarded her and then beamed. "Ne vous inquiétez pas, you're very cute too." She stumbled backwards a little. Pinkie Pie arrived and refilled her drinks. Trixie looked at the pink earth pony and smiled widely. In Pinkie Pie, you're cute too, in an annoying sort of way." "Thanks!" the earth pony exclaimed. Trixie laughed. "Everybody's cute," she exclaimed as she began walking and stumbling towards the nearest table and climbing it. "Everybody's cute! Even I'm cute! No!" Trixie stood atop the table, rearing on her hind legs and throwing her forelegs wide, telekinesis seizing her cape, causing it to billow as though in a strong wind. "But in purple, destiny is stunning!" With that, the unicorn collapsed, falling from the table and onto the floor, grin never leaving her face. Her eyes were closed, but she was still breathing, so Lyra assumed she was alive and mostly unharmed. Pinkie Pie smiled at the sight. "She's become one with her inner self," the party pony exclaimed. She's passed out, Bon Bon remarked. Pinkie Pie nodded to her fellow Earth pony. That too.